I think it's funny when you add a little bit of money to a sport and you give some girls attention, what they can do with it. I think everyone should take a page out of our book and really put some more time and effort into women's everything.
Welcome to Breaking the Glass Hockey Podcast. We are talking women's hockey from the PWHL to the NCAA. We will be talking with players, builders, coaches and fans who have made this great game what it is today. Educate, empower, elevate. Let's go!
Welcome back. Episode 9, Breaking the Glass Hockey Podcast. Per usual, we had some technical difficulties before we started recording, but we sorted ourselves and we're ready to go.
I see you went back to your Irish friend.
Yeah, well, that's because it was the first one when I had to reload everything. But we're not supposed to talk about the technical difficulties online, Linda. We are joined today, though, another big interview by Linda, Sadie Lundquist from College Hockey Inc., who was patient enough to sit through all our nonsense and is joining us here on the pod, episode 9. Sadie, thank you for doing this. How you doing?
No, thank you for having me. It's great. I look for any excuse to talk women's hockey, so I appreciate you having me on and all the efforts you guys do to raise women's hockey. This is awesome. And I did wear my Frost shirt for you today in honor of that. I am unbiased in the world of college hockey and PWHL, but and PW? Come on, you're a Minnesotan. You can't admit that. I am Minnesota born and raised. I always say you'll have to drag me out of the state. I love it here. Yeah, I'm a fan of all the teams too, but I'm a Bostonian, so I have to default to the Fleet. So.
Well, once the Fleet got eliminated, I've been pulling for Minnesota and Ottawa. That's my dream final. So we're halfway there.
I'll say Ottawa's up.
Yeah. Well, let's talk. We don't need to talk about the PWHL. We can talk about you. So let's say this wrong. Is it Cloquet?
Cloquet.
Cloquet. I should have known. Cloquet, Minnesota, born and raised, right?
Yep, born and raised. That's in Minnesota. It's community-based hockey, so that's where I played all of my youth and high school hockey before college.
That's awesome. That is, and I will say that there's no one that does high school and youth hockey like Minnesota. I mean, really, it's awesome. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm certainly biased, but I love the community-based program. I got to play with the same girls from age 10 to 18. My town is 10,000 people about, and we produced like 15 Division I and 10 Division III players in that span of time I played there. So it's just for a small town, there's a high production because there's nothing to do there but play hockey and fish.
I was going to say an ice fish, right?
Yeah. We were talking about the recruiting process because I was trying to figure out, I'm certain that, we tried to recruit you at Northeastern. And of course, Brian thinks I didn't do a good enough job, right? So that's why you didn't come. But I remember many a times flying into Minneapolis and driving up to like Cloquet for like an all-star game, like the Minnesota All-Star game, just like flying for the day. I mean, you said that about all those players that I've gone and played in colleges. I just, at that time, spent so much time in Minnesota, recruiting. So, just a big pond of fish for women's hockey for sure.
Yeah. I love the whole.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, the idea of community-based, with all these new growth and opportunities. I think it's a much more calming path, to sort of see the future. And as you said, really connect and bond with your teammates. I think not only for hockey, but for life is a lot of good lessons in that.
Yeah, and I won't go too far down it because I could spend the entire time talking Minnesota hockey, but I think what's so great is it values every player. So there was girls that I played with that their goal was just to be the best high school player they could be. They had no aspiration of playing in college because they maybe knew they wouldn't get there. But the community base doesn't leave them behind. And as a result, they love hockey. And now a few of those girls that I graduated with that just played, I caught myself just playing high school hockey. They played great high school hockey. And now they have kids that they've reinvested into the program because they had such a great experience through their life. And it just fuels the bottom of the funnel. And then hopefully someday the top gets bigger because everyone who went through that program loved it and stuck with it through their senior year. So biased, not saying that there's phenomenal hockey across everywhere, but certainly a little partial to the community-based model.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely it's so refreshing. And I don't mean to. I'm not trying to make fun of it in any way, but it's like a Norman Rockwell type of. You know what I mean? That's the image that you have in mind of the community hockey. It's really,
Yeah.
yeah, it's something.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the community hockey. Who got you involved? You said you came from a big family. You told us before we were recording. Were you just following in the footsteps, or your parents hockey players?
No, my parents were not. In fact, I'm not convinced my mom knows all the rules still, even with 4 kids who played hockey. But no, my brother, I'm the fourth of 5, and my oldest brother came home from school one day and said, my best friend Troy is playing hockey. Can I? So my grandparents bought him a pair of skates, and that's what started the hockey, Lundquist hockey family. I think the first time they put him on the ice, they didn't know you had to sharpen the skates before when you got them. So they brought him brand new skates and just sent him out there. He couldn't stand up. But we have evolved since then, and we figured out 4 of the 5 of us played hockey, which was.
I think that's not that uncommon for brand new hockey parents.
No,
not at all. And it's so funny, my mom would drop me off, and she would say go have fun, make friends, and my dad get on the score sheet, get into a fight. So they had just no concept of how to motivate me or understand the game, but they got there.
Well, you had both ends of the spectrum, so it worked out.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there a player that you patterned your game after, like a college player or a local player a little older than you? I know you followed, Montana. I'm going to go with Montana, your friend Montana. I know you followed her at the college. Did you look up to her? Was there another player or something like that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Montana Vichoric. Yep, she was a year older than me at Cloquet. She went and played at Bemidji. One of the most effortless skaters. I mean, she was the kid that went from figure skating to hockey, and it was so evident. She was so good at skating. So absolutely, she was a great leader, great player. But like I said, our town produced a lot of talent. So my 7th grade year, before I started playing high school, I got to watch a lot of girls that played Division I and Division III, from Johanna Ellison, who played at BC, Michelle Mann, who played at the Gophers, Kirsty Hackla at UMD. I could go on and on with the amount of girls that I got to watch in 7th grade and then play with in 8th grade for 1 year. So, I also had 2 brothers that inspired me a lot. So I had a lot of hockey influence, which was great. And again, just really appreciate all of that in that small town.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Did you play? I saw in your bio softball and cross country. Were those your main? Those are your 3: softball, hockey, and cross country.
Well, I played soccer through 9th grade, but so many of my friends who played hockey were blowing their knees out. So I started running, and if you saw me beyond a Zoom, you'd be like, "That is not a runner's body." So I persevered through cross country. I feel like it taught me a lot of mental toughness because it was not just easy for someone 5'5" with my stoutness to just run 3.5 miles as fast as possible. So it was a good learning experience for me. I did it really because I wanted to try something other than soccer, and then softball was just for fun in the spring. Hockey was my main sport. I mean, if I could have played 5 or 6 sports, I would have. I just love playing. I kind of wish I would have golfed. I golf now. I didn't in high school. I wish I would have, but yeah.
Yeah, but the sports you chose, they tie together. Like you have cross country gets you in shape for hockey. The softball keeps your eye-hand coordination up. So I mean, they all kind of interweave.
Yeah. And I wasn't that good at cross country, so I never had to worry about that season bleeding into the hockey season. So it was just a really good decision.
Golf is just the post-career thing to go to, and we didn't really have. I mean, golf doesn't go that far back when it comes to being normal or more common in high school sports for especially females.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I wish golf was around when I was playing too.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth. I think would I have had the patience for golf as I think 17, 16-year-old Sadie, would she have had the patience to golf? And I don't know if I would have, but I still wish I would have done it. I love to golf now. I'm in a Monday night ladies league. I think my group is the youngest by a significant amount of years, but we absolutely love it. We got our push cards every Monday at 4:30. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So then I got a couple more from when you grew up. This one is just so random. Do you remember? Are you old enough to remember when the North Stars left?
Not really. Yes and no. I like to claim I do more so than I actually do, just to get on the why did they leave us bandwagon? So I'm more I'm a diehard Wild fan just because I feel like that is the core memories of what I have. Yeah.
So are you in any way pulling for Dallas? Does that bleed in, or is it? And I don't know from
Absolutely
here.
not.
Yeah, all right. That's why I respect that way
Absolutely
more.
not.
All right, good.
And it's tough because I actually really do like a lot of their players. Granlund, former Wild player, had a hat trick the other night. I wish we would have picked him up at the trade deadline, but no, I'm not really rooting for Dallas. It still stings.
I respect that. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the best answer you could have given me.
Yeah.
And then when you went to Bemidji, were there other schools that you were looking at, or did you know that was it? You were staying home. Like I know you said you talked to Northeastern, but I was wondering if there was any others you were torn between.
There were some. Yeah, I had a number of schools reach out to me. There's a couple out in the East Coast that were bigger than I wouldn't do well. Really came down to kind of Harvard and Bemidji. So I obviously chose Bemidji for the education. I'm just kidding. I love Bemidji State with all of my heart. It was the best decision for me. Being a small town kid, I could see my family. They came to probably 90% of my games. And it was a very blue collar style. Like it was a very program that was building. My freshman year, we had some tough ups and downs. And then by my sophomore, junior year, we kind of built this program that finally broke into the top 10, finally beat the number 1 team in the country. So I got to be a part of building a program that I grew up, seeing and watching, particularly when they would come play the Bulldogs. So yeah, I always say the 3 reasons I chose Bemidji are someone's 3 reasons they chose not to go to Bemidji State. But that's the beauty, right, of getting to pick through all these different schools and sizes. And being a D2 school operating D1 hockey, that in itself is a different experience than a lot of the big school footprints are going to have.
And then
I think the building blocks are huge. I agree. Like stepping into something that's never been done before at a university and a team. When I was at Northeastern, we had never won it before. And so, it was a pretty huge step. And then, of course, a lot of great athletes followed that forward. But I agree that building part is really significant and like puts that smile on your face back just talking about it. It's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Bemidji. And it fit my personal lifestyle. And we do a lot of work with student athletes in my role at College Hockey Inc. And, it's hard to tell a 16-year-old to think about yourself as a student, an athlete, and a developing young adult. But really, like, pick a school that fits you as a developing young adult. If hockey ended, God forbid, would you still want to go to school there? And Bemidji State's the kind of school that I would have stayed at, God forbid, hockey ended. So
that's a great way to look at it.
We'll talk about leaving schools a little bit in a little while.
Yeah, I got a couple more before Linda takes over with the college.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. This one I always ask. So I saw you wore number 17 through college and for the Whitecaps. Is there a significance to the number, or do you just like it, or is it after someone?
I wish I had a better story for this. I don't. I was number 13 all of my life because my older brother was 13. But when I got to Bemidji, someone had it. So I snagged 17, which it felt, I don't know, for some reason, when numbers feel right or they don't.
Yep.
17 just felt right. I like odd numbers. It feels like 13, but isn't 13. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
I get it.
Pretty close. I'd say it's pretty close.
Yeah, it just felt like maybe 13 alt. But yeah, Erin Cody was a player at Bemidji State. She had 13. She's one of the best goal scorers I ever played with. So even after she graduated, I don't think I can put that number on after she's had it.
And then just a couple of other things. Like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I was looking through like the rosters and stuff. And Haley Williams that you played with, do you know she's still playing for HK Budapest?
I do, yes.
That was awesome. That she's the only one that I saw that's still playing. That's great.
Yes, I saw it. She actually made a run for the roster for the Women's World. So I was really rooting for her, hoping she would crack that and I could add some more Bemidji State alumni. But that's awesome to see her still playing. I had a women's league game on Monday night, and only 8 players showed up. And it took me like 3 hours to recover from it. So I can't imagine her still playing at the highest level with body contact.
And then your time with the Whitecaps, you guys, Isabel, you were the Cup champs. And you played, talk about an all-star team. Kendall Point, Snowfield, Lee Stecklin, Hannah Brandt, just the list is on and on. Yeah. I knew it was only a short time, but anything that stands out to you, any like, I don't know, big memories or any besides the Cup, obviously?
The first time that Rhonda put us on the line, I was like, oh my gosh, practice number 1, there's 7 minutes left, and she puts us on the line. And, 5 years had gone by between me graduating and trying out for the Whitecaps. So that was hard to get back on the line after not doing it for 4 or 5 years. But no, I mean, just being a part of that, like you said, our first line was like purely Olympians. There's a lot of support for the team that year. So it was just an honor to be a part of. We won the Isabel Cup, which was also like the cherry on top, but just to be a part of feeling, like you're helping grow the sport, and that I got to kind of give it one last go before I joined my women's adult league hockey. Felt like a dream. So I really appreciate all the people and time that was put into that, and how it's laddered up into much better hockey nowadays.
Set the foundation, right? That league set the foundation, and all roads lead to beer league. I always say that. And then I'm going to ask you a Chris Farley-esque question. When he used to do his interviews on Saturday Night Live, you spent over 9 years working for the Minnesota Wild. Like, how cool was that? That's my Chris Farley question.
It was a blast. I still remember like where I was in Bemidji when I got the call, because I interviewed like May of my senior year. And I still remember I was in a car with all my friends, and there's like, shh, it's the Wild calling. I don't know if I got the job. And that piece of me was like, what if I don't get it and I'm in a car with all my friends? But I got it, which was thankful. And then it was an internship that rolled into a full-time job for the next 8 years. And it was a dream. Like, I grew up watching the Wild. To say you work for a professional sports team is incredible. But I do say that with the caveat now of working at College Hockey Inc. I really thought that was the dream job, and it was. And I'm so grateful for my time there. But now to be in college hockey and impact the landscape that affected my life so much, it's like, oh, cool. I have a new dream job, and I get to live it every day, which is super cool.
How did the job with the Wild come up? Like, did you know somebody in the organization and they said, apply for this? Or were you like, I got to get into hockey somehow? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I didn't really know what working in sports meant. Like, when people would say, hey, after college, what do you want to do? I'd say, I don't know. I kind of want to work in sports, but I didn't really know what that meant. So I actually went to a job fair in the Twin Cities in my senior year. We had an off weekend, drove 4 hours down from Bemidji, attended a job fair, got exposed to what that meant. And then within a month, I just happened to see the role pop up at the Wild and applied for it. I didn't really know anyone. Being from northern Minnesota, I didn't have a ton of influence in the cities, but just went through the interview process. Again, had to kind of ladder around hockey and driving down like 4.5 hours for an interview, getting dressed in the car. Like, again, I just parking around the corner, checking to make sure that's the right building, going back to my car, changing, walking back into the building for the interview. So, and I was 21 at the time. So I kind of say I grew up at the Wild, and it was it was a blast. But yeah, I didn't really know anyone. I just kind of went in with I hope this works out. And 8 years later, I was still there.
Oh, I have to imagine that listen, I'm sure there were plenty of Minnesota native candidates, being the job is in Minnesota. However, this is a professional hockey program, so they could be from anywhere. I had to say you probably grandfathered in there with your roots, and then they probably knew you drove 4.5 hours, and they were like, this girl's it. She's going to do whatever we ask her to do. So that's amazing. That's actually a great story, because a lot of former players will first go into coaching, and the first question you ask is, was this to prolong? Like, what am I going to do next? Or I don't want to leave hockey and I'm not over it, So that's impressive.
Yeah, it was a great time. I'm, like I said, forever grateful for the Wild and that opportunity and what it's laddered into now. And I still keep in touch with a lot of those people, because we are funded by the NHL, College Hockey Inc. is. So I still get to work with a lot of those people every day, but focused on college hockey and specifically women's college hockey. So like I said, the new dream, I'm living it.
Well, it's funny you said that about the dreams, right? So you had the dream job to be with the Minnesota Wild, but now it's a different aspect, but I'd imagine it's got to feel more rewarding at this point with College Hockey Inc., because you're actually impacting people on a personal basis, where it's not like the Wild's going to chug along no matter what you do, right? This, you're actually helping people. It's a whole different deal.
Yeah, the Wild just first round exits, so it's nice to not have to worry about losing in the playoffs. No, I'm just kidding. I love the Wild so much, but they hurt me. No, it's incredible. Like, even just yesterday, I had a conversation with a young girl from like Illinois who just wanted advice on should she play on this team or that team, or what's her best path. And while I don't have all the right answers, we do a lot of research and data and try to just help these kids with anything off the ice. Obviously, I can't tell you what to do on the ice, but here are all the resources we can give you off the ice to help you make the right decision for you. And I just think about my recruiting process. It's daunting. It should be exciting, but it's daunting. So to kind of fill in all those gaps, all those unknowns and what ifs that these kids maybe don't know if they're not exposed to it is super rewarding. So, and that's just a small part of what we do, but it feels like a very impactful part of what we do.
Yeah, we say all the time, it's such a monumental decision for a 17, 18-year-old athlete to decide, hey, that's why the portal's so important, I think. But now it's like, hey, what are you going to do for the next 4 years? Like to ask them with their 22-year-old self, like, hey, what are you going to think in 4 years? It's unbelievable. And I mean, I have an 8-year-old and she is constantly giving me the back off, man. So I can imagine what it's like with a 17-year-old. But to have that sounding board for these athletes, that's not their parents, not their aunts and uncles or family. It's someone who lived it. And, I think that's an invaluable resource.
Yeah. And I don't put my personal philosophy into it. If they ask for my opinion, I'll certainly give it, but we root a lot of the stuff we do in research data. We look at pathways, what age does the average Division I player commit? It's a lot later than people think. So oftentimes I hear from kids that say, well, it's June 15th and I haven't heard from a coach. And I go, well, statistically speaking, most kids won't be recruited until early in their junior year. So we try to give them peace of mind and resources that every pathway is different, and let's celebrate each other and learn from each other. But, don't compare yourself to what other kids are doing in the recruiting world. So easier said than done, but.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sadie, I just started a position with Stop It Goaltending here in Boston. So that's what I'm doing now is I'm the women's director for advising for kids taking the next step into either private schools, academies, or into colleges. It's been really exciting. So I had my first graduates, apply and accept and go to school. So that's what I say too, is every kid's path is different. And so what you were saying before is like really feeling it out for all the reasons of happiness and not just be focused on just the intellectual decision part of looking at schools.
Yeah. And like, if I went back to my 16-year-old self, I'm sure there's a bit of me that would have just said, I want to play hockey. But the more we can ingrain in them, all these other things that come along with playing hockey, it's just going to better their experience and their decision-making, and hopefully take a little bit of the anxiety out of the process too. It's a daunting process, but it should be a fun one.
Right. Very exciting one. I always tell the kids, like, go and feel it, go without an agenda and have a coffee or a tea and just hang out at the quad and really get a feel for the vibe of the place.
Absolutely. Some kids, they'll step on campus and it's like they just instantly know.
Yeah.
It's like if you didn't take that time to go experience it, you might have missed out on something that, could change the trajectory of your entire life.
In the recruiting process, in both directions, whether it's you looking at schools and getting a list or whether it's the school looking at you, I know when kids were coming, even if they were coming to look at our school and we obviously want them to choose our school, you get down to 3, you got hopefully you have a Mercedes, a Cadillac, and a BMW, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're gonna, if you start with a bigger pool and you whittle it down, you got a Mercedes, a Cadillac, and a BMW. You're probably not going to go wrong. You're just trying to find the perfect fit, and it can be stressful. But if you do your research and you do it the right way, you should end up that way in theory, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's a big part of what we try to do here at College Hockey Inc., which is awesome. And I think kind of like we were talking about, it goes back to just a lot of fulfillment, helping kids, on their journey. So
awesome. Let's transition to that then. Good segue.
Mm-hmm.
College Hockey Inc., you're the first ever director of women's hockey for College Hockey Inc., and I think that just over a year now. Last January, you started that position, correct?
Yep.
I think just tell us about the mission statement and a little bit about that, because I really learned a lot from our podcast conversation about it myself, and I think I know a few things here and there. So just start with the mission of College Hockey Inc. and tell us about that.
Yeah. So College Hockey Inc., I kind of first go back to, we're a nonprofit and we're funded by the NHL. So that gives us a lot of, room to work within our mission, is really to grow, market, and support men's and women's college hockey. And that's really who we are at our core. it comes to life in kind of three main ways. One is feasibility studies. So we work with colleges and campuses that want to add Division I hockey. It's a really cool part of our role that a lot of people don't know we do. We do a lot of marketing, research, PR, social media, email, website, all that good stuff, right? Bigger, broader audience, more engaged with college hockey. And then the third part is, since we are a nonprofit, we use all those things we learned in the marketing world, and we try to apply that to student athletes, prospective student athletes, their parents and coaches. So I work with a lot of like USA Hockey, Hockey Canada clubs to, again, just go in and teach them about what it means to be recruited. Again, all the off-ice stuff, right? I'm not like, work on your edges. It's here's the timeline. Do you know the dates? Here are the most interesting thing, and I'm getting off on a tangent here, is I ask kids, do you know how many Division I schools there are? Is there any brave souls who want to tell me in front of this entire room how many Division I schools there are? I usually get one or two, and the most common guess I get is 29. So these kids have aspirations of playing college hockey, and this is no fault to them. I don't know if I would have known different, but they don't even understand how many schools there are at the Division I, Division III, and ACHA level. So again, went off tangent there, but that's really who we are, those three pillars of College Hockey Inc. And we do a lot of things behind the scenes. We like to say we're kind of like the little engine that supports a lot of different people and entities within college hockey. And we just try to we're glue people.
Yeah, you said that, the little engine that could. And I love the feasibility. The feasibility topic is fascinating for me. So we have Delaware coming in, right? We had Maddie Robitzer on the pod. She's transferring from Northeastern to Delaware. So Delaware is getting a gem there. And goalie, getting already a Division I goalie right off the get-go. We're hopefully going to have, spoiler alert, Allison Kumi coming up next. Talk to her about starting the program. But, and you mentioned you just finished feasibility, I believe, for Michigan.
Yep.
And then you have a
I'm
couple
sorry,
others.
but the fact that Michigan does not have women's hockey, when every NCAA Frozen Four, you look at where the players are from, and the majority are from Michigan. It drives me insane, and the infrastructure's there. Sorry, go ahead. I've been arguing about this since I learned about it, but go ahead. Sorry. Sorry, Linda.
I mean, everybody has, right? Because we're just like, what? The player pool is there. Like, it's such a big name, that kind of thing. But, I mean, I know you can't tell us the results, but I think it's cool that you have all this, like, you have the results before people know about it, right? I also think it would be more interesting, and I don't know if you have this, it's happened, if you can share or not, like, what would be some reasons for the no? Like, you do the feasibility and it's a no. What would be the reasons?
And it's interesting. So, like, let's look at the two examples you gave, Delaware and Michigan. The feasibilities for these two schools are very different. Like, Michigan knows it's going to be expensive. So it's kind of a formality to say, what is the infrastructure needs? What are conference alignments that would make sense? Like, things that they know, but just it's essentially a giant SWOT analysis for them to have it all in front of them. But they know, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like, they already know, but it's just they know what they need to do. Where Delaware, that feasibility study was very much building the building blocks of what it means to have a hockey organization. What are you going to pay head coaches? How much do sticks and operational costs run you? It's even things like scholarships. Like, all of those details are what go into a feasibility study. And every school is different, especially smaller schools, you know, like if we have a D2 school that's looking to do D1 hockey, if you're a Michigan State or a Delaware, they all present different needs and reasons. So I think I'm answering the question here, but it's just every school is a little bit different, but really it's just a big SWOT analysis to tell you that hockey's expensive. We all know that, but it breaks it down further. I think one of the biggest things is operating expenses, things like head coaches. And then the other big things are conference alignment, what conference it makes sense, which ones would take you, how that would work out. And then the other thing is infrastructure. Yost is an old building, so we partner with an architectural firm that comes in and says, like, would you need to add a new building? Would you have to have an addition? Do you have enough space to house, if you had a home and home, like, and you had 2 visiting teams plus your home rinks? And that's with Delaware. That was a little easier because they had existing infrastructure, but they still did need to do some things to it. So that was a big part of the feasibility study as well. And then the other part is the NHL pays for it. So we connect with the school and campus, and then we loop in the NHL, and they actually pay for these schools to do the feasibility study. which is a really, really unique and fun part of it. And they oftentimes find a NHL club that wants to partner. So Delaware partnered with the New Jersey Devils, which was great because they paid for it. They did a lot of sponsorship work, and now they're actually creating more of a long-term bond with the University of Delaware to help with prospective student athletes who are now transitioning out of college and into the workforce. So it just creates a really unique opportunity for the school and the NHL to grow hockey at both the men's and women's front. So I think I answered your question somewhere in there.
Yeah, I can tell Brian has a question. So that's okay.
So when you mentioned that, I think it's the Flyers with Delaware, but is that something that
Did I say Devils? Excuse me. Flyers.
Sorry, I got you out of trouble.
My apologies. No, thank you for correcting me.
Is that you guys that puts that bridge together between the Flyers and Delaware, or is that like you bring it to the NHL and then the NHL says, all right, who wants it? Or is it, and I know I'm way oversimplifying it. But.
No, you're really not. We work with the NHL, so our contact there, and then he's really the one who connects it. And it's always geographically aligned.
Right. Yep.
So that's really that's what they do. And there's usually no hesitation for the NHL because, I mean, it's great PR for them and it's in their best interest to help continue growing the women's game and the men's game.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just a great piece of work that we do that not a lot of people know that we're involved in. And then we actually have 2 more women's schools under contract to start feasibility studies. Let's see, it's May here in the next month or 2. Which is really cool. And they're very different schools. They'd be looking at women's hockey in very different ways, kind of like the Delaware and the Michigan front. But we're really excited that those 2 are under contract to start studies soon.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're all levels, right? Like, is this any school, any level, women's hockey? Like,
yeah, it can be. It could be a D2 or D3 school that's operating Division I hockey, or it could be a Division I school that wants to add it on. So.
You guys bring in consultants? You need any help?
Yeah. I was just thinking, I'm like, I'll go around and talk to the stick companies if you want.
sounds great. That was the biggest one. I'm like, this is great. This is cool.
Yeah.
But okay, so you were in Naples. Not Naples. I call it Naples by default. I can't help it. It's hardwiring in my brain. You were in Florida at the coaches convention. I just got back last week, right?
Yep. I'm a little bronzed, you know.
What was the talk at the bar after the meetings? Like, what was the hot topics?
Oof. I mean, first of all, one of the topics was the Jets scoring with 1.4 seconds left.
Yeah.
We were watching that game, so I'll digress there. No, I think I don't know. I don't want to. Am I giving away too much? I mean, people are always talking transfer portal, officiating, rule changes, things like that. So we try to stay pretty neutral at College Hockey Inc. on all those fronts. Like I said, we support wherever the game is going. We want to support that direction and how it best works for student athletes and for programs. So you'll have to ask Allison Kumi more about that, I guess.
I do miss those times of you just said that about God when you're down there, the playoffs are going on. It's so fun.
It's so
to watch NHL playoffs and now PHF playoffs although it had just started or was just about to start, but down there with hockey coaches, like everybody gets out of meetings and just goes and has a cold beverage and hangs out and watches and it is the best because the dates were a little shifted this year since we changed venues. And so we were there on a Saturday and there's this beautiful woman having a wedding out in the courtyard. And I felt so bad for her that she probably didn't realize there was going to be a hockey conference there. And it's just a bunch of, 5-inch seam shorts and polos walking around. I was just going to say polos, shorts, flip-flops, right? That's it.
Yes.
Walking with a briefcase or a folder or something.
Yeah, she probably thought she was
exactly the same.
It's May in Florida. She's thinking nobody's going to be down here. I got this whole venue to ourselves, and here came the AHCA.
Oh God, that's amazing. Okay, so you brought up the transfer portal, so let's talk about it.
Yeah.
How are you guys handling it? Like, what are you stepping through with the transfer portal with athletes?
Yeah, so I think, again, we go back to what is College Hockey Inc.'s role in growing and supporting the game? So oftentimes that falls back to research. So one of the biggest things we'll do here in the near future is start to just look at transfer portal research purely from how many kids enter, how many kids get picked up, how many move laterally, or how we would, evaluate what that move looks like. Do they end up at the same team? Do they move divisions, or do they not get picked up at all? And again, that's kind of our role in it. I think the transfer portal is great. If you go to a school and it's just not what you expected, or it's not what you needed, or all these different factors, right? I think it's a great outlet for kids to find fresh starts. We will interestingly look at how many kids transfer, year over year, or kind of are we seeing success if kids transfer multiple times or one time, or, kind of what's that number that is best for the student athlete experience. It's going to differ for every student athlete. So I don't know that we're going to find any like solid answers, but at least we can, again, just say, you'll know what's right for you as a student athlete when you meet with coaches or programs and all those things. But here's the data that can support whatever you're looking to do or thinking to do. But we try to stay pretty neutral on just like whether you should or you shouldn't. Here's the information to make the best decision for you as a student athlete and developing young adult.
That's a great approach. It's really nice to probably put some statistics to that and the success rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it may uncover some things where we see if kids transfer X amount of times, do we look at their point average or think, how do we deem what is successful versus unsuccessful? We don't necessarily want to do that because that can only come intrinsically from that kid that's transferring. So we just want to support them with whatever information can help them make that decision.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question about the portal. With all this tracking, are you tracking it both ways? Like, are you seeing like if the GPA is affected? Are you seeing it if like, I'm going to use Linda as an example, like, 3 years in a row, Linda's losing players through the portal, is that kind of stuff tracked? Are people like, you got a bunch of people that are jumping out of Hockey East for whatever reason? Is that, and I'm just curious about how the data, are you getting it both ways?
Yeah, we'll look at it, from a conference level, a team level, things like that. The academic progress rates is kind of what you mentioned, like GPA side. We look at, I actually just sent out before this interview, our yearly article on academic progress rate. And then it got me thinking, how does that impact if kids transfer? Because a school gets academic progress rate points, right? If they retain and kids work towards and I literally thought, oh my gosh, well, how does the portal affect that? But if you transfer and you still maintain what would be academic progress, it accounts towards that school that you left, which I thought was super interesting because you wouldn't want, right? Just because a kid finds a better opportunity, you don't want that to affect the fact that they're still maybe they're a 4.0 student. So we do look at it from that perspective. But I think we haven't gone through the full research. So anything that we find, we'll start to note it, but we don't know exactly what we'll find yet because we haven't gone through the research.
You're still building the model. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super open-ended, right? We're willing to see what outcomes and conclusions we can draw from it. Again, just to try to support the student and coaches too, right? We're here to support the coaches and how they view and look at the portal and whatnot. So again, we're just try to be the behind the scenes little engine that could.
Sounds like a lot of math.
A lot of Excel spreadsheets. I've gotten weirdly good at Excel spreadsheets, which I did not have on my resume, but now I can.
Oh, there you go.
And I think, the other topic is obviously a big topic is NIL. I don't know how much hockey's talking about this. It's so different for different sports. You can spend all your time trying to educate yourself on it, but it's a really fluid thing. Where I think it would be pretty tough to keep up with unless you were like the NIL compliance manager at a school.
I don't even know if they can even keep up with it, but yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, transfer portal, you talk about supporting athletes and supporting schools and the sort of, exterior factors that affect the overall growth of the sport and the programs and even the image, name, image, likeness. Are you struggling with that? Do you have a resource that you can direct an athlete to, let's say, that knows more than you or someone they can talk to about it?
Yeah, I think that's one spot where we see advisors are beneficial in terms of just like who's going to advocate for you if you don't know how to. Again, NIL is something that it's your point. It's really hard to nail down. I think a lot of times at College Hockey Inc., we just boil it down to its purest form is that hey, you used to not be able to go home in the summer and run a hockey camp in your name, and now you can. Because the reality is most NIL is in football and basketball. There's no,
Right.
that's no big surprise. But there are kids that are, especially if you look at like USA Hockey and Hockey Canada caliber kids, they are getting social media deals or brand deals. So I think having some help on that front is great. But most kids, it's going to come down to the fact that they're maybe doing a hockey camp in the summer and branding their name on it. So I think that's really, again, maybe I'm copping out here. The transfer portal, we try to stay a little neutral on that and push them to advisors if they really want to explore that world. But I think in the terms of NIL, we actually look at a little bit more from like the house settlement side right now, and how is that affecting the game. We try to stay really in tune with like what will impact roster limits, how will NIL be funneled through schools, what will implications be there for smaller schools versus bigger schools. So that's, again, it kind of comes back to the research and the factual basis of how all those bigger pieces will affect women's hockey is a little bit more where we live.
It's really interesting.
I know.
I think it's super interesting, but if I tried to explain the house settlement to my mom, and her eyes glazed over in about 5 minutes. But it is interesting because, if teams opt in, it means roster limits, and roster limits means girls may be cut. And that's the stuff that we try to think through, and how are we helping support the game and coaches that as these changes come, we're a bit proactive, as proactive as you can be versus reactive.
And with the NIL, I imagine as it grows, that would enter into the feasibility study as well, that some schools, there's going to be more of a chance for NIL for their players versus others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If a school opts into that and they want to do direct revenue sharing with the student athletes, that's a bigger impact. And that's where we would explore more what NIL means is with it, when it's coming directly as a revenue share result from that school opting into the settlement. If it goes through, it's delayed again a little bit here with the judge. So we'll see what happens.
All right. I got a question for you, because this is like my Do Better last podcast. Okay. You talked about some we talked about some marketing and the growth of the women's game and sport and college in particular. Do you think that the women's college hockey in Division I should have their coaches convention at the Frozen Four? What are your thoughts on that?
Really put me on the spot here.
What are your thoughts?
Man.
Take a moment.
Should it be? I think you'd have a lot of sun-kissed folks not agreeing with that after they just spent 6 days in Florida. I don't think it's a terrible idea. I'd have to think through it all. I do know, let's see, the timing of that, summer off recruiting. I mean, man, you really put me on the spot here.
I know.
This
is what
I don't hate. I don't hate the idea of it.
There you go.
I mean, this has been something that I've been thinking about, and I have benefited for many, many years of going to Florida and absolutely love it. And every year when it comes up, I try to think of a reason why I need to go. But I also see I guess I look at women's basketball and they do it. Their coaches convention is at their Final Four, and just the benefit it would have to getting people to the games, supporting your own sport for the whole weekend. That's quite a body of people to be there in attendance. I think that there's budget issues, and not to say that it would be a ton cheaper, but they're staying down in Florida is really expensive. And, could we get, I know that at this point, the assistant coaches aren't often even going down to Florida anymore because of budgets and schedules and whatnot. So I just think it has a lot of benefits to it. And I don't know the perfect, how it could ever grab traction. I'm not pretending to be a logistics manager by any means, but now I've told you about it. So feel free to take it and run with it.
I'm going to make sure
I'm
going to make sure I get this idea out before this podcast comes out so people think it's my idea. No, I don't hate the idea. I will say there were a lot of coaches there this year, which I think to your point is great to see other coaches. Obviously, you want to be there on the bench, not in the stands, but I thought it was just such a great tournament. It's a great tournament every year, but that place was packed. It was so rowdy in there that it's just, I feel like even like during one of the games, my wife was like, I don't want this game to ever end. And that's how it felt. It was so back and forth. That's how it felt. And I feel like the more we feel that, the more we bring that back to our own programs and continue that evolution or the cycle of growing women's hockey. So, maybe I'll throw it out here quick before anyone else knows it's your idea.
I don't know that it's that novel or it's never been brought up before, but it's definitely been squashed.
Yeah.
You're fighting the tans in Florida. I think that's what
I'll be honest. I think it was Logan Biddle and Bree McLaughlin. They post a picture in Florida. Logan's at RMU, and they posted reposted a picture because she was really sunburned, right, with him, and they were outside somewhere in Florida. I do think it's a nice benefit. You bring your partner, your spouse, somebody, your kids, the people that pay the price all year while you're on the road. It is a nice thing to do as well. So I'm not like knocking Florida. I'm just saying, like, could we repurpose ourselves better?
No, I hear you on that. It's only my second year going to those conferences, so I'm still getting a feel for how we make the most of it as College Hockey Inc. But yeah, I will say it was a lot of fun. But it's a lot of good work too. I mean, there are some days where I didn't leave the building. We present to every conference, so it's a great opportunity for us to get in front of all these coaches. And my job is to be a reflection of what they want, right? I always say, like, I have a boss, but really all of you are who I'm here to support. So getting that one-on-one time, whether it's at the Frozen Four or wherever it could be, having everyone together to say, what are your questions, your comments, or your qualms? Like, nothing will be met personally. Like, tell us what you want this role to do, because this women's hockey role at College Hockey Inc. is truly supposed to be a reflection of all the coaches, their players, and the programs they represent. So
that's wonderful. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take this pause, guys, to say, Sadie, thanks for joining us. I have a quick meeting at 6:30, so I'm going to jump off. But it's been fun having you, and thank you for sharing all your thoughts and experiences.
Yeah, it was wonderful meeting you. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Yeah. All right, see you guys soon.
Talk to you later. What it boils down to is Kelly doesn't have any time for the nonsense that we get into at the end of the podcast. Is what it boils down to. I was just thinking, though, I wonder if a way to satisfy both is if they start doing the Frozen Four in a neutral site. And I know this would be hard with NHL playoffs and stuff, but I mean, Tampa, Florida, Dallas, there's all, Arizona. I mean, they're not in Arizona anymore, but you could have it in Arizona. The infrastructure's still there, and that might satisfy both demands. You could have the meeting, Linda, at the Frozen Four, and it's in a vacation area,
Yeah. I go back and forth on neutral sites. I think they can be incredible, but then you think about this year with
you earn it. Yeah,
you earn a little bit, like the Gophers earn the way into it. And then the geographic, and it doesn't always align geographically, but I mean, that place, the Wisconsin fans packed that place. And I think they would travel, they're great travelers regardless, but with it being a 4-hour drive, they showed up. I mean, they were there before players even got there at times. So I do think you lose that when the geographical alignments fall in place, you would lose that. And I feel like the atmosphere when Sims scored that shootout goal, it was electric in there. I truly did not want that game to end. Both teams were incredible. And I feel like some of that had to do with the fact that the venue was well picked and the fans traveled well.
Let's hope we're talking about it could go to any neutral venue and it would be successful, because I agree that would be awesome and would expose hockey to different areas. But at the same time, it's a risk that is, not creating that environment that you were talking about.
Because if it doesn't work, it'll set you back too. That's the danger, right? Yeah.
I think, there's some tournaments throughout the year, like we're going to help with the icebreaker coming up. And some of those are maybe some areas where I would love to explore neutral sites where you have 4 different conferences. It's earlier in the season, so you don't feel like maybe your ultimate season end is coming down on being at a neutral site, all those things. But I do like the idea of neutral sites from growing the game. Because you see it when these PWHL takeover tours, people have an appetite in these non-traditional markets. So let's bring the best hockey in the United States to them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So how do how do players and coaches typically get in touch with you? I mean, I'm sure you market yourselves, you're at everything that is hockey, but is there just an open line? Do people just call you up? Like, what is typically the outreach when someone says, hey, I need help?
Yeah, usually it comes through, we do a lot of seminars, right? Like I said, for USA Hockey and Hockey Canada programs, that usually comes from, I'll present out, and then I always put my information out there. Like, we want to be available. And I guess I'm not trying to act as an advisor. Like, that's not what we're trying to do, but people just naturally come to say, hey, I saw those stats. Can you send them to me? Can you tell me more? Which is great. And that's, where we want to live, is just supporting these student athletes. But yeah, I mean, I'm on the AHCA Board of Governors, so I work with all the coaches pretty frequently. So if they ever have stuff, they just reach out directly. But in terms of prospective student athletes, it's just making sure we're putting our name out there when we're doing seminars. And as usually when I host one, then I get an influx of emails the next day of someone who recommended us to someone, which is great. The hockey community, especially the women's, like you guys know, is small and it's tight knit, and we appreciate everyone, spreading around our name and how we can be a resource to them.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing that you guys are doing on both sides, men's and women's. But
yeah,
I feel like there's a lot more in place infrastructure wise for the men's side, so it's great, and it's just an invaluable resource. I mean, I wonder how many kids that 5-6 years ago were like, oh, if only this was there then. I'm sure there's a lot of that. So,
I mean, I wish I would have known. I wish someone had just said, hey, Sadie, here's all the schools out there. And even though half of them wouldn't take me, it still would have been nice to know, all the different rules and what's not going on. And I think it's super interesting when I go down to these meetings that we were just talking about and I present out. And at the end, I would say, is there any feedback? Like, please, no criticism will be met personally. Like, tell me what you guys want to hear. And they're always just like, nope, great job. And I don't think it says I'm not good at my job. I think, to your point, we've had this established on the men's side for so long that it just kind of feels like the women's side is just so thankful that they have a resource that is 100% dedicated to them. And we'll continue to grow it out. Like, every day is a learning experience and how we can be better at college hockey and can better support these programs and coaches. But at the end of the day, I feel like sometimes it's just a sigh of relief that someone's entire role is just to focus on the growth and marketing of college hockey for women.
You're right. It's a dream job for sure.
That was a great way to tie it up at the end too. That was great. We just have a couple of like off the cuff things. I do want to ask, because before we get to these lightning round, because Linda, you can just ask the icebreaker one, but I wanted to ask. These two things I saw in research: the Red Bull Crashed Ice competition, which is now ice cross. A guy I used to skate with did this, and he's insane. He did it years ago when we must have been 15 years ago. We moved out to Chicago and we saw him on like ESPN 5 doing it or something crazy. Yeah. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was awesome. It was, remember those 5 years between graduating and Whitecaps. Yeah. I raced in that because I was like, well, I'm young, I'm somewhat in shape, I might as well be competitive. And my older brother did it again, kind of following in my brother's footsteps as usual. He did it, so I just went out and gave it a try, and I snowboard, played hockey. It's kind of a good combination of the two, and it was a blast. It's super scary, and I can admit that now that I'm removed from it. But I got to travel the world. I got to St. Paul, did a huge race, so it was super cool to do one in St. Paul. But I got to go to France, Germany, Ottawa, like Quebec City, and race on these insane tracks. I did break my leg doing it, so it wasn't always super fun. That was an interesting day, breaking my leg, but it was super fun. Again, just feel super fortunate. I just feel like a lot of my life is right place, right time. And that was like, sure, I'll give it a try. And there I was traveling the world doing it.
And then the last thing I had for you, because Linda's got something for you, but I wanted to ask about, I want to give your family some shine here. Gordy's Hi-Hat.
Yes.
I want to ask. So it's Gordy's-hihat.com. So was this your grandparents or great grandparents that founded it?
Grandparents. My grandpa was Gordy.
I saw his picture.
Yeah, him and my grandma opened it in 1960. It was actually their third restaurant. They opened the first A&W in northern Minnesota as well, and then sold that, and they built the Hi-Hat from scratch, really. And now my dad has owned it ever since I've been alive, and then my two brothers are helping take it over. So
that's awesome.
Again, I'm very biased, but it's a really cool spot. growing
looks
up,
like
I got to work
an
there.
upscale like diner and like a family owned like upscale Sonic is what the vibe I kind of got from looking at it.
Yeah. It's just we were on diners, drive-ins, and dives a couple times.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I got to hang out with Guy Fieri one day, which was super cool. It was after my freshman year of college. And like I just say, it was nothing crazy special. Like sometimes on that show, it's like some secret recipe or they marinate things for 7. It's just we do everything the same way that my grandparents did it when they opened it. So hand pattied, hand blended, hand breaded onion rings, hand cut onions. Everything is just done the old fashioned way. So it's pretty cool.
That was one of those ones I got to file this away for if I get out to Minnie.
Tough on the hips, though. I can take a bacon cheeseburger down and an order of onion rings like it's nobody's business. So.
That banana milkshake looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But no, I just wanted to give your family some shine on that. And Guy Fieri is a fellow Las Vegas Raiders fan like myself.
Yes.
So,
he was a blast to hang out with. So thank you. Yeah, we're really proud of that restaurant.
Awesome.
Brownie always pulls out the really good. He digs, and he finds these things. Awesome.
I love it.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you for giving back to the game that I know gave you so much. I know one of the things when Brownie came to myself and Kelly and I can speak for her, I think, and asked us if we wanted to do something like this with the podcast. That's exactly what I was thinking is how can I keep engaging? How can I keep talking about this? Like I feel the same way you do, but wow, you are really crushing it in this role and it's so impressive and I'm going to keep following. And you were talking about your newsletter going out and I was like, I'm going to go on and subscribe to that right after this call.
Inc.com. Everyone should go. Everyone listening, go and subscribe to that.
Yes, and we'll do all our tags and the things we need to do. Yeah. Last question.
Oh, okay. You're not going to be fired with this one, are you?
Can you give us, 2 to 3 names? 2 to 3 names of people that you think we should bring on the pod as sort of glass breakers.
2 to 3 names that I think
it can be 1 to 2.
Can I just list off all the Division I women's head and assistant coaches?
Yeah.
They're on the list. Sorry.
Yeah.
I figured. Yes. Who am I to say that? So I am on the Women's Hockey Advancement Committee with the NHL, and Caitlin Parker and I head up the elite hockey part of the Women's Hockey Advancement Committee. So we help run the part that is kind of national level or college hockey emphasis. But Caitlin Parker is incredible. She works for the Kraken out in Seattle. She's part of their hockey ops, and she is a former Colgate hockey player. So she's just been a blast to get to know. And this last maybe about year working on that committee together, and she's a character. I was actually just on the phone with her right before this call, so she's wonderful. Oh man, now you're really putting me on.
That's a great one, though.
It is, yeah. Caitlin, I mean, I could just again list that committee. There's some really fun people on that committee. This is going to seem weird, and maybe this will show bias in my role, but Kelly Nash is someone I've gotten to know from LIU, and all the coaches I work with are phenomenal. But I've gotten to know her a little bit outside of college hockey, and I think she's just like a very, very genuine human being who loves advocating for the sport. And I know they all do, and maybe that's not the right way I should word it, but she's just got a genuineness to her that I love talking to her at all things, whether it's hockey or she runs marathons, all those things.
Awesome. I know Kelly from.
I kind of figured.
She was kind of coming in as I was going out, but she also played for Cal, and we got a bunch of Cal kids in at Northeastern. She's got silky mitts when it comes to playing.
She showed me a picture of herself playing, or maybe actually Lindsay Fry showed a picture of her in a slide deck, and she was wearing white gloves, which that was a little questionable. The all white gloves.
I think it might have been a Cal thing.
I don't know. That's questionable to me. The all white Eagles or whatever they used to be.
Those are great referrals. Thank you, because it's on you now. We get to say Sadie Lundquist said you should come on the pod. So how can you turn it down?
Which I know you guys know all the people more so than me, but those are 2 great people I've just really gotten to know on a personal level, and I think they're phenomenal.
Thank you for that.
No, thank you. It's great because I joke around that Linda has like the Rolodex that, you know, you
Yeah,
can't
say,
beat.
who am I going to say that you don't,
But-
are like,
But what's funny is when you
I
talk to
don't have
current
Caitlin
players.
Parker's number.
Oh, see, there you go. When we're talking to current players, and one of them was like, "What's a Rolodex?" And she was not
Oh,
like
no.
digging on me; she was being serious.
Yeah,
She was
that was
genuine,
fun.
and I was like, "Oh man, I'm old."
Yeah.
I do know what that is.
Yeah. Well, you're at
Thankfully.
the upper bracket then too. Well, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you taking the time. Hey, listen, if you're a college player, parent, friend, check out collegehockeyinc.com, the newsletter, advisory. I mean, just as a resource, the resource is,
Yeah.
you know, and the fact that how much does it cost again, Sadie?
We are always free.
That's the big ticket right there. Not getting free burgers at Hi Hat, I'll tell you that.
No,
Yeah.
maybe a family and friends discount, but
Oh, there you go. There you go. But yeah, so thank you for hopping on with us. Really appreciate it. Hopefully our paths cross at a rink this winter. And yeah, everybody, thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Remember, like, subscribe, and tell 100 of your closest friends. As we like
thank
to
you
say.
so much. I really appreciate it. Any excuse to
Thank
talk
you.
hockey, and this was the best.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.